Doc Bryce, everybody. Hey, let's make some news today. Real quick, just want to remind everybody I am out on special assignment. I've been pulled off of news because I need to focus more on getting these 4 stations moved across town. So I just wanted to go ahead and wrap up the deal with these 4 checks, or four, not 4 checks. What am I saying? These 15 checks and the deal with email security. And everything I'm about to tell you is based on what I've researched, and there'll be commentary in here as well. This is basically a combination of news and commentary going back and forth. Views, advice, and opinions of all those of Doc Bryce do not reflect those of Doc Bryce Productions, LLC, and do not reflect those of any subsidiary vendors, associates, and other members that associate with Doc Bryce Productions. All views, advice, and everything is that of my own. So letting you know that I am working on this alone because I've been pulled off of news to focus on moving these 4 stations. And not only that, I have not been able to have time to be able to condense all this down into 2 minutes. So with that, let's get it going. Well, I posted a while back that I found some incriminating evidence, and that I have, and one of them I could talk about, and the other one, well, I can't. So let's go ahead and get it started with how this thing all got started with where it leads me to today. So back near the Super Bowl weekend, an email went out from Michael Fry, city attorney for Camden. He made an email saying that, just telling everybody in the council and including media in that basically the rules of open meeting through an email without including the media, and also about sensitive information. At that time, I didn't know who the email was about. So Monday, that following Monday of Super Bowl Sunday, went over to City Hall to ask about the email, and found the email and found out that it was Ebony Gully that sent the email. And with that, there was no FOIA violation in open meetings whatsoever. But I did see that there was an attachment there. And so I asked about the attachment because the second part of that email that Michael Fry sent out was about sending sensitive information over emails. So I asked what those attachments were, and I was told I cannot see those attachments because they are unredacted. So I wanted to know what the attachment is about and why is it unredacted and why can I not see it? And it's because it had sensitive information on it that had checks from the city to vendors, and that information basically was the front of the check that the city issued, and then on the back of the check, if you got a FOIA, or if you've seen the FOIA for these checks, on the left-hand side, you'll see the front of the check, which is the check that's from the city of Camden to the vendor. Then on the back of the check, it has where it was deposited. And some of these have the vendor's routing number and account number. Now, the ones that I got, because I asked for copies of the same thing that Ebony Gully asked for, mine are redacted. So that means I can see the front of the check, but I can't see the back of the check. But I was told what to look for on the back of the check, even though it's redacted. I can't see it, but that's what's there, is the routing number and the account number of that vendor. That means that that email with that attachment, unredacted, went out to 5 different domains. It went out to Google, it went out to iCloud, it went out to Yahoo, and it went out to Lockheed Martin, and it also went out to Cable Links. Doing a little research, come to find out, Yahoo got hacked back in 2013, and they wouldn't admit it until 2016, and they got sued for it. 3 billion users were exposed. Then iCloud got hacked, but Apple owns iCloud. They won't admit it. But the tech experts out there seem to disagree with that and say, yeah, you got hacked. And Apple's like, no, we never got hacked. So then I looked for Google, and with Google, the way they usually get hacked is somebody will click a phishing link, and then that exposes the user. Then you got Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin got hacked, and they had holes in their security they didn't know about, but the hackers made sure that they found them for Lockheed Martin, and Lockheed Martin later went back behind there and secured those holes, and hopefully they're still running a secure email server. Then you got Cable Links. I couldn't find a thing on Cable Links. So Cable Links, ding, ding for the win. There's no stories about them being hacked. Now, here's the deal. Those 5 domains that I mentioned, those are domains that are being used by city aldermen within the city. They're using their personal email accounts. And that was my point when I brought up this thing during the last council meeting, was that the email that started it was the one from Michael Fry. Then I went to find out what the email was about. Then I found out that Ebony was the one that sent it. And then I found out the information that was in the unredacted version and what was in it, and that it went out to 5 different personal email domains. So that means that the city council members are using their own personal emails, like Lockheed Martin. And I don't think Lockheed Martin would like to be tied up in a FOIA wanting somebody like me coming along saying, hey, I want access to, because you got to remember, if you're a elected official, even if you're using your personal email account, your personal email account is open for FOIA. So that's why it's important to have 2 separate emails. If you're going to do business, have an email for business only, and then have an email that you do for personal stuff. That way, somebody can't FOIA, your personal account and then start looking for stuff in there, and then something pops up that shouldn't be popping up. So my other recommendation that I never got to because I got shut down was that, one, there needs to be a resolution made about email policy and email security when it comes to sending sensitive information and the aldermen talking and discussing with each other, city business and things like that. Never got to that point. The other thing is that the city council people need to get off their personal email accounts, and the city needs to set up a email account for them. Like, for example, some of the key players, like with the mayor, they have a city designated email account, like mayor@cityofcamden.com. Whereas everybody else, well, they've got their own personal email accounts. So I went through, and the argument is that those vendors' counts and routing numbers are exposed. They're just floating out there in cyberspace, and they could be compromised. Now, Ebony argued that she sent it secure, which is true to a point, but that doesn't mean that the email itself is actually secured, meaning the attachment to the email with the unredacted information is still floating around out there, and it's not secured. So what I did is I did like any good computer person would do. I went through and pulled up the headers on the email, which, if you're not familiar with that is, basically the headers tells you everything you want to know about the email, where it was delivered to, where it came from, the routes that it took to get to you, and the servers that it hit. So one of the things was I noticed that Ebony uses Camden@ebonygully.com, and that is a Gmail account. Even though it doesn't say Camden or Ebony Gully or anything at gmail.com, what she's doing is she's running her domain, ebonygully.com, through the Gmail email servers. I do the same thing with docbryce.com. So if you send me an email at me@docbryce.com, docbryce.com or any web host that you sign up for will provide you with an email server or email access. But the security settings and stuff, they're just bland. There's nothing to it, no frills, no thrills or anything. And so, you don't have the spam filters and the protection and everything like you do with some of these bigger ones like Gmail. So what I do is I route my email server from my domain, docbryce.com, over to Gmail. So I can use me@docbryce.com, and it looks cool too, because I get to use docbryce.com, not, at gmail.com. And then it runs through that, and then I can respond to it. And then when I hit return or I send you an email, it looks like it comes from me@docbryce.com. Well, Ebony's doing the same thing. She's using Camden@ebonygully.com. She's routing it through the Gmail server, and it looks like that if you don't read the headers, you would never know. So I read the headers, and there it is. So the way I know this is looking at the headers here. It comes from google.com domain of Camden@ebonygully.com, designates, and then it shows an IP as permitted sender, and then it uses the SMTP of Google. So that's the email server protocol that you have to use to get into the Gmail side and be able to send emails back and forth. There is some kind of security on there. It's called DKIM, and basically it's just like a handshake. So the level of security on this email is it shows that whoever is on that device, like me at docbryce.com or Ebony, for example, so whatever device she's on, her phone, tablet, desktop, laptop, whatever, it has a secure handshake to authorize the user to access the Gmail server to be able to send and receive emails. That's your handshake. That's your level of security. So it goes through the internet, and does its thing and moves around and everything, and then goes to where it's going, to its destination. Then there's another secure handshake, which just verifies that the recipient on the other end is authorized to be able to access their email server and then be able to pull it down. As for a level of security on the email itself, yeah, it's just butt naked out there. The attachment is. So that means anybody could possibly intercept this email that has this information in there with the attachment. So you've got your DKIM, your SPF, and SMTPS, which just primarily focuses on securing the transmission of the email and verifying its authenticity, but it really doesn't directly address the security of the attachments contained within the email. That was my big concern when I brought this up during the audience participation and was trying to get to the point. The way it was reacted to is you would think I just accused somebody of a crime. No crime was committed. The only thing is, though, is somebody screwed up. Somebody hit the send button without regard to the information that they were sending. Now, I also got another email through FOIA where Ebony had requested the information, the checks and stuff, but she was going to originally get the redacted version. Then she sent another email saying, you know what, pull that, forget about the redacted version. I want the unredacted version. And that's the one that she sent out to the other alder people within the council. So basically, what she did with the unredacted, I did the exact same thing with the redacted. So I'm not sure what the point of was to have the unredacted version, other than she is entitled to it as a council person. And I don't know, maybe just flex, I guess. That's just my opinion, though. It needs to be addressed that there needs to be some kind of email policy set in place for the city. And the people on the council need to get off their personal email accounts and use a city account. That's where I was going with this, but never got to finish that. Other than that, it's smoke and mirrors, it's a distraction, and all this other stuff. And so it's just to take away from the focus of these checks. Well, I didn't care about the checks. Why? Because, well, the paper was already taking care of the checks. I was more interested in the email. But my handlers told me that, you know what, you need to go find out about these checks. So I went and found out about these checks. There's 15 checks floating around out there that have the different signatures on it. Now, I'm sure you've heard by now already with these checks, there's 15 checks floating around out there. And between the tail end of 2022 into 2023, they still have Julian Lott's signature on them. And that's normal when you have a passing administration. Was checking for continuity, and come to find out there is bleed over, if you will, from one administration to the other. That's normal because there's checks that were issued during that administration, but they may have not cleared until after the new administration has taken over. But I know you're saying, well, what about the ones from October of 2020? I know. So then that became a question of, well, then how could this continue then if these checks are being written with, they still had Julian Lott's signature on there, and some of them even had Jim Green, and he hadn't been around since, 2021, back when he retired? So pull the 15 checks to figure out why they've got different signatures on there from previous administration. And then went to check with the software company that makes the accounting software for the city. It's Red Wing. And right now they're in tax season, so trying to get a hold of somebody over there to talk to media about this is kind of difficult because they're only primarily answering calls for those who need tech support for, their software, since they're in tax season mode right now. And they're dealing with a lot of municipalities too. I mean, it's not, Camden just isn't the only one that they deal with. So didn't really get a clarification on it because, as we're told, it's a glitch. It's a bug in the system. For some reason, the signatures defaulted. Now, the big question was, why are the old signatures still in the system? Wouldn't it be that if you have a new administration come in, wouldn't you want to wipe out the old administration? Say, well, this wouldn't happen, because it's possible that when the Red Wing software gets updated, it could default back to a previous setting, and it's grabbing those signatures. It could be that a hard reboot or something could cause it to fall back. For whatever reason, there's some reason that the software is falling back and grabbing those signatures. But also another thing to keep in mind too is that there's so many different accounts that are not used every day. So some of them did get their signatures switched out, and some of them, since they haven't been accessed in a while, they still have the old signatures on them, and it's been an oversight. So now that they know that they're there, they're going back and pretty much going back through all these different accounts that are in the system and trying to change out those signatures. The other thing is that I'm waiting for, and I still haven't gotten yet, I FOIA'd for invoices that go to these checks. Now, I asked how the checks, the steps of these checks, how they get done. Well, supposedly the way it works, and once again, correct me if I'm wrong, because every time I think I get it right, I'll forget a detail. You're more than welcome to leave a comment and put in your 2 cents of what you think. And would love to be able to see what everybody else thinks about this as well. So here's what happens. A department needs something. Let's say, for example, it's Public Works. They need weed whacker line. They need to go buy some weed whacker line. And with that, they'll put in a request to go make a purchase. Now, the purchases are usually done on like a PO of some sort, a purchase order. They'll put in the request for the amount, and a packet is put together that goes before the mayor. Now, there's no check in that packet, so the mayor never sees a check. So the mayor gets that packet, what the money's supposed to do, who it's going to, what it's for, and then there are 3 signatures that are required to sign off on this packet. So you've got the department head that'll sign off on it. So it's Public Works, so it'll be Terrell. Then you got the mayor that signs off on it, so that'd be Charlotte. And you got the treasurer that signs off on it. Then that would be Lauren at the time. So then the packet gets put together. The checks are cut, and it's done on computer. So these signatures are digital. They're not like on a stamp or anything like that. And so the check is created. Now, I've heard 2 different versions of this. Now, I've heard to where when it's drawn up in the account software, the signature is not seen. Then I've also heard that, yes, when you draw up the check and everything, you'll see an image of the check, what the check's supposed to look like and everything on your screen. And then you'll have the signatures and stuff on there. Like I said, I've heard 2 different versions of this. I haven't seen it myself, so I don't know which one to go with. I just know that there's 2 different versions that I'm being told. Yes, you can see the check. Yes, you can see the signatures. No, you cannot see the checks. No, you don't see the signatures. You basically just fill out the information on like a form, fill in the blanks, and then hit print or whatever, and a check comes out on the other side. Now, when that's all done, the check is printed out. That check gets printed out to Kayla's desk. She's the bookkeeper. So she gets the check, and then whatever she has to do to handle the check and stuff. And then from there, however it gets sent out and goes to the vendor. Now, these are done as a credit. So it's not like they're waiting on the check to go purchase the stuff. They've already purchased the stuff. Now they're going back behind after the purchase and making good on the purchase. That's why I was asking for the invoices, to make sure that the invoices line up with the checks and that the checks did what they were supposed to do. So the checks go to the vendor. Now the vendor gets to see the check, but keep in mind, I mean, as a vendor myself, I don't really study a check. I just make sure that the name is right, that it's made out to me, because I'm the one who's going to go cash the check. And I make sure the amount is right. So I look for the number in the field where they write in the number amount. And then, of course, the next line where they write it out in Word for the amount. And then, see if there's a signature there. And the signature, there's something there. But most of the time, I'm not going to know who signs these checks that I get. So I just take it on good faith that these checks are good until the bank tells me, hey, this check's no good. And then I have to go back to the payee and trying to secure funds a different way. Well, these checks went through. The vendors got them. They took them to their banks. And that was the other question, too. Well, if the bank knew, then why didn't the bank catch it? Well, that's another good question. It's because not everybody goes to the same bank. The check comes from Farmers Bank and Trust, but that doesn't mean that the vendor also banks at Farmers Bank and Trust. They may bank at Bank of America, for example. So Bank of America is not going to know because it's not their check. However, Farmers Bank may have caught it, but they didn't. So at least one, two, three. So at least 3 hands that this check passed through that somebody should have caught it, but they didn't. And it got cashed. The vendor got their money. And then the check got processed to the clearinghouse. It cleared and it came back to the city as a clear check. If you've ever written checks, you know how it works. By the time at the end of the month or whatever, you get all your checks back that you've written. You either get them physically or digital, and then you can see that they've all cleared. So they cleared, and they did what they were intended to do, even if they had the wrong signature on them. So the accusations are fraud, deception, embezzlement, theft. All kinds of stuff. But at this point, looking into this, and with the FOIAs and everything, really cannot find any hard evidence of any of those things because the checks did what they were supposed to do. They were authorized to go to that vendor. They followed protocol and everything, and they went through their process from the check being written out to printed, from printed to the vendor taking it to the bank taking it, cashing it. The funds were good. They cleared the account, and then they went to the clearinghouse. They cleared there, and they circled back around, and poof, they're back in the city's possession as a clear check. So it's really hard to find any kind of deception with these checks. Now, I know it's going to disappoint a lot of people because, that's what the other side, this is what they were going for. This is what they wanted. Now, I'll give credit where credit is due. Ebony Gully found the checks. It was a great catch because before her, for as long as this was going on, nobody was catching it. And that was a great check, and it needed to be questioned. Why are these checks being written this way, and why are these old signatures still on them? Now, you're probably asking, too, why are the old signatures still in the system? Why not wipe them out? I asked that question, too. Come to find out, the state auditors won't let the city remove those signatures. They have to stay in the system. Or if the city takes them out, the city could be fined for removing them. I don't know what the amount is, but the auditors want those signatures to stay in there. So could this also be a problem in the future? Could be. Do the people involved need to be more diligent and make sure that when these checks are printed on the printer, that there are enough eyes on these checks to make sure that the checks are written to who they're supposed to go to, who the amount it's supposed to be, and that the correct signatures are on there. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now that we've gone through this experience, it definitely needs to be dealt with. And that should be something else that should also be policy to verify, double check, triple check, four-pull check. Whatever. Just make sure that before that check leaves the building, the right signatures are on those checks. That way we don't have this problem again in the future. As for everybody wanting to find, some bad dealings going on in the city, I can't find it. If it's going on, it's being hidden really good. But, if you're going to steal money from the city, we've had other stories where people have been busted for stealing money out of public funds, but they didn't do it through checks. They just kind of skimmed out of the account. And they were able to do it undetected for so long that it got up into thousands and even millions. But they were very discreet about how they siphoned funds out of a public account. This one is just blatant. If you were really going to purposely want to steal money from the city, this is not the way to do it because there's a paper trail. The other ones wasn't so much a paper trail, it was they were just trying to figure out, how, where'd this money go? And wait a minute, there was supposed to be money over there. And which leads to another thing is supposedly how we keep finding funds or funds that just disappear. But then we find them, but then they disappear or they're doing something. I don't know. They keep getting moved around or whatever. Well, as we saw in one of the city workshops on the budget going through, found out some money was put in the wrong category or the wrong column, and it had to be moved out of that category and moved into the right category. And supposedly that freed up some money. I don't know. The claim is $6 million. but it freed up some money. Well, it didn't really free up any money because the money was already there. It was just put in the wrong spot. Now, I've seen this happen with Quorum Court, too, where they went through the budget first of the year. And as they're reading the resolution for the budget, there were some numbers that were not right. Now, if you look at the column that the money is in to get the total, the money was right for each item that the money was supposed to go to, but the total was wrong. I don't know, for whatever reason, the computer just didn't add up or somebody put in the wrong calculation or something, but it was caught that the total did not equal what the add-ups were, the itemized items to create the total sum of that column. And then right there, it was caught. And so everybody acknowledged that, yeah, this doesn't add up, but it does add up, but that doesn't add up to what these add up to. So then they just made an addendum to change the numbers and correct it, and then voted on it, made a motion to vote on it and everything. And they went through their procedures, and then poof, it was corrected, which we've seen many times at city council meetings too, where numbers don't come out right. Then find out, oh, well, okay, these add up, but that doesn't add up. But if you take and add these up, it should make this number, not that number, because that number's off. But it doesn't free up any money or discover any new money. It's just that it was total wrong. So the belief is that, oh, we got this newfound money. Oh, where does free money come from? It's free. It was just not added right. So it just comes to clerical error. You've got somebody who's just not putting the numbers in right there. Or if you've ever used an Excel sheet, I have. Have you? I have. If you've ever used an Excel sheet, you got formulas that are in there. So with those formulas, you may have something that's off. And then so when you're using the formulas to do your calculations, you could get a different calculation. And then, you have to catch it. You catch it. You go, okay. And then you go back and you change the formula so it makes the right total number. It just, now it is. That's what we've come down to. In conclusion, what we need to do with this email thing, Ebony, you screwed up. Now, back in September 12th of 2023, Ebony did say on record and on tape, because I have it on tape, that she has an IT background. And that was when she was making a fuss that somebody was screwing with the Wi-Fi inside the City Hall building with her Facebook Live feed. And she knew it was coming from inside because she has an IT background. She told us all. So I would think that with her background experience in IT, that she would understand that when you send an unredacted attachment with sensitive information like somebody's account and routing numbers, that you should probably secure the email. And I think that's the big confusion too as well. There's a difference between a secure email and email security. What we have is just a protocol that, or not a protocol, but a handshake between DKIM, SPF, SMTPS, which it just secures the transmission, but doesn't secure the attachment. So what I did, I asked for a FOIA. I said, I want to, this is a verbal FOIA. I want the last 120 days of your emails, correspondence. Then I sent her a hard copy, and I was more specific. I just want the ones with attachments. I don't want any emails that don't have attachments. And I got it within the 3 days. And so I looked at the attachments, and I noticed the attachments have a security setting on them through Adobe, because she sent them through Adobe PDF. I cannot alter those attachments, meaning I can't make notes. I can't add my notes to them or anything like that. I can't highlight anything. There's nothing I can do to them. I can read them, but I can't alter them in any way. So I had to make side notes. I can't make notes directly on a PDF. So with that, I know she knows how to use PDF security. So what should have happened was that when she sent the unredacted attachment through PDF, she should have at least put a password on a PDF to be able to open it. Now, everybody else I talked to, they said they got the attachment, and all they had to do was they got the email opened up, and all they had to do was click on the attachment, and there it was. right there for everybody to read. There was no security settings on that whatsoever, at least not to open it. Now, she may have put security settings on the PDF like she did with me, to where I can't make notes, I can't alter it, I can't highlight, I can't do anything to it. So we know she knows how to use PDF security settings. Why didn't she secure this particular email attachment? I don't know. Then I asked her to send me the FOIA encrypted. I want her to display to me that she understands email security. There's a trap in there. So what I did, now any of you who understand email encryption and stuff like this, you'll understand exactly what I'm saying. But if you don't, I'll explain it. So I said to her, what I want you to do, send me the email with the attachments, but I want you to send it to me encrypted and send me your key, your shared key. So that way I can open the encryption. Because without it, I can't open it. But remember, she's sending it to me, and I'm asking her to send me the email that she's going to send me. This is in the FOIA that she's going to send me. I want that encryption key. In fact, what did I say here? Let me pull it back up. Let's see, department heads, officials, and everything else, dating back to October 16th, 2023. Yes, here it is. To ensure security of the information exchange, I kindly request that the requested documents be transmitted securely. Additionally, for added security, I appreciate if you could contact me via phone or text message using the provided contact information and share the encryption key required to access the shared documents. That's the trap right there. Now, this is a perfect opportunity for Ebony to just bust me out. Like, you don't know a thing about email anything. You're stupid. Your email's stupid. You're both stupid. This was the perfect opportunity for that. Well, either she doesn't understand what I was saying or it just flew right over her head, because it works backwards. What she should have said was, no, that's not how that works, you big dummy. What you need to do is send me your shared key, meaning I have a encryption key that's shared, and I send her the key so she can transmit encrypted to me. It works backwards. Not the way I did it, because it's wrong. And she didn't catch it. So that gave me right there insight that, yeah, she has no idea what I'm talking about. So this is why we need to have email policy at City Hall when it comes to sending secured information. And not only that, everybody needs to get off their personal email accounts and start using a city account. Like I said, cityofcamden.com. So that's what the mayor's using. That's what the assistant mayor's using. That's what other people inside are using as well. The older people need to be on that kind of domain, so that way it stays within, everything's just self-contained within there. Yeah, just a little added bit of security. That told me right there what I need to know. She says she has an IT background. She knows enough to be able to secure the PDF that I can't alter it, to be able to highlight it, make notes, or anything like that. But she did not at least use a password or require a password to open up the PDF. At least that would have been one layer of security if somebody were to intercept it. Because we don't know who on the other end has anything on their computer. So you've got 7 other aldermen out there that are receiving this email, along with everybody else that's attached to this, that's receiving this email. And you don't know if on their device, if they have malware, spyware, keyloggers, any kind of that weird stuff that's compromised their system. And so now that that person has received that email with the unredacted information, that somebody can remotely access their computer and get in. But not only that, you could also have somebody midpoint come in and intercept. So it is possible to intercept the email. You've got man-in-the-middle attacks. You've got phishing attacks. And then you don't know if the sender or the recipient has been compromised. Because, I mean, you just assume that your computer is clean of viruses. But, your virus scanner is only as good as it is with the well-known viruses and stuff. But that doesn't always guarantee that you're clean either. So, I mean, it really creates a concern putting this information out there and putting these vendors at risk. So with that, the city also needs to make a public announcement that the possibility is there. Because remember, Yahoo denied it, or they didn't even admit it. They got hacked in 2013, and then it wasn't discovered till 2016. So 3 years went by, 3 billion users were exposed, and Yahoo got sued. Now, I'm not saying the city will be sued, but I'm saying for the city to cover its assets, that they probably should make a public announcement saying that, hey, something happened here. They don't have to say who it was, but they just need to put a notice out to their vendors that, hey, some things happened internally, and you just want to let you know, watch your accounts and everything, and just be sure that if you see any unusual activity to, be on guard. The other thing is, too, with these emails, since it's unredacted, well, what's so big? It's just count numbers, rounding numbers. Well, it would be more likely that if you were to hack a vendor, that it could be caught. Why? Because, well, it's just unusual activity. And unusual activity is more likely to be caught versus normal activity. So instead of stealing from the vendors, why not steal from the city? Because remember, this whole thing about the checks was protecting the taxpayers' dollars. Well, if you're going to send out the vendors rounding and account numbers, it's not exactly, oh, yeah, and the city's accounting and routing numbers, too. You're not exactly standing behind what you mean when you say you're protecting taxpayers' money, because now you've also exposed the taxpayers' money. So there's a roadmap. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about this because I don't want to give everybody ideas. But basically, when that email was sent, you gave the hackers a roadmap on how to very slowly, quietly, undetected, drain money out of the city without going detected until somebody finally figures it out, which would be enough time to be able to steal enough money, allegedly, to be able to make a dent. So that's why this is so important. It's important to me. Now, as for those checks, I think we've pretty much settled the checks. What's going to happen, though? Can the checks be voided, or they're not honorable? Well, they've been cleared. I mean, they've gone through the clearinghouse. They did their thing. The money went where it was supposed to go. So for now, the deal is already done. But they did what they were supposed to do. Now, as for criminal charges, like the other side has been saying that, people are going to jail, federal pen, going to be wearing bracelets and jumpsuits and all this other stuff. I'm not an attorney. So, I can't tell you, don't worry about it. There ain't nobody going to get in trouble. That's for the municipal league to decide. That's for the AG to decide. That's for those who want to get involved in this. That's for them to decide. They have more access to stuff than we do as citizens and filing FOIAs and everything. But for the most part, from what I can see from looking outside in, is it was a mistake and it was not caught in time. And Gully caught it. And like I said, credit where credit is due. That's exactly what these council members are supposed to be doing when we're going over the approving the budget and the financials and things like that. When we get together every month, that's doing your due diligence and coming prepared as well. So I mean, continue. I'm not discouraging anybody from doing that who sits there at that table. By all means, please do so. Because if Gully hadn't done it, I don't think anybody would have noticed. That's just my opinion. I don't think anybody else. Well, I mean, look how long it went on. I mean, the last check that was issued was in October of 2023. And that was the last one. So, I mean, that's 10 months. Then again, you got to look at how many checks the city sends out. I mean, the check puts out thousands of checks within a year. So, I mean, you've got to be talking about less than 1% of checks that were messed up, that went out and still did their thing. I mean, everybody involved is human. The treasurer's human, the bookkeeper's human, the mayor's human, the department head's human, the vendor's human, the banks are human. And it just didn't get caught. but Gully found it. Now we can address the situation. So we need to come up with an email policy for the city to use because they really don't have one. They kind of sort of have one, but it's not really much of one. What they do have, it's just pretty much tells the city employees to be aware of what they're doing and how they're using email. And keep in mind that when you're using the city computers, that you're on city time, city equipment, and don't need to be, doing personal stuff. Hang on, because I'm trying to pull it up here real quick. That you don't need to be doing personal stuff on city computers. So I've got that over there somewhere, and I'm trying to pull it up as I'm doing this. And that needs to be updated as well. Just, okay, they've got it under internet use policy, is what it is. So it is a statement of policy. It's personal use of city-owned telephones, cell phones, computers, internet, email, television, and mail systems to provide control for incoming and outgoing personal telephone calls and mail. So that also covers fax machines too. Kind of gives you an idea how old this stuff is. So when it comes down to, cell phones and computers, and internet, including electronic mail, as an integral part of overall business operation. City-owned cell phones are provided for the purpose of conducting city business only. Employees eligible for city-provided cell phones shall be determined by the mayor. Department hands are required to review and approve for payment all cell phone billing and to be charged to their department budget before final payment by the city treasurer. Non-business personal use, social media, everything stored on the city-owned computer, including employee emails, are subject to the Arkansas Freedom of Information Act. And here we go to electronic email and FOIA. Email is considered network activity, thus it is subject to all policies regarding acceptable, unacceptable use of the internet, and the user should not consider email to be either private or secure. Specifically forbidden for use of email is activity covered in inappropriate use statements included herein, sending, forwarding chain letters, virus hoaxes, and urban legends, etc. Because electronic messages are typically stored in one place and then forwarded to one or more locations, often without the specific knowledge of the originator, they are vulnerable to interception or unintended use. Now, this is coming from the city. The city will attempt to provide an electronic messaging environment which provides for data confidentiality and integrity. However, the city cannot be responsible for web-based emails, such as Yahoo, Juno, Hotmail, and Gmail. City employees should always be aware of the risks associated with the use of all email systems. So violation of this policy may be subject to the employee and to disciplinary action up to and including termination. Now, granted, that has to deal with city employees. Well, your older people are not really city employees. They're elected officials. So we got something on the record for city employees. We need something for your elected officials on how they're going to work with each other, correspond with each other, and securely as well. And when it comes to unredacted information, how that needs to be handled. Take, for example, attorneys. When they send stuff to the court, a lot of times they'll send a redacted version ahead through email for the courts. So that way they can go ahead and get it now and kind of get familiar with it. Then they'll send the unredacted version, usually by courier, hand-delivered or something. But they're not going to send it over fax. They're not going to send it over email. They shouldn't send it over email. But most attorneys I know of will take and have it couried over to the court, the unredacted version, for security reasons, because you don't want that stuff getting leaked out. We've heard, how many times have we heard about email leaks and everything? So that's what we need to work on. Those are the two things to conclude from this. Email policy for elected officials, put them on the city email domain, like we have cityofcamden.com. Create some kind of device to where, they can work with each other. Basically just ban using personal stuff for city business. So that way we know that if, well, they know that if they're going to get FOIA'd, we're not going to maybe accidentally find something we shouldn't find. So that way, everything that's in your city account that you use, well, you're not going to have to worry about any of your personal stuff getting out. And not only that, hopefully it would be more secure as well because it would be contained within. Then the city would be able to control security and all that other stuff there. That's what I've come up with. The other discriminating evidence that I found, I can't talk about. Now, it has to do with a lawsuit. I'll give you that. I've been asked not to talk about it simply because, well, I'm not an investigative reporter. I was asked to do the thing about the checks and the email. I did my job. As for the other one, it's not under my purview. So I've handed that off to someone else who can do that, and they will have the story on that lawsuit. So I can't do that one, but it is very damning, though. I will give you that. So when that story breaks, it won't be for me because I've got 5 positions that I hold at the radio station, and out of those positions, right now we're moving, and this was like the worst time to go off and do this because we're trying to move, people. I mean, could you not save it until April? That's what I was saying. Is you know what? Maybe you could have done this back in November, or waited till after April, but not during February and March. We're trying to move 4 radio stations. And I've put more time into this than I should have anyways, because I'm not an investigative reporter. My job is just to go get the news, report the news, and tell you what happened. And, that's it. This has put more time into it than what I should have. And like I said, I wasn't interested in checks anyways. Paper was covering it. They were doing a great job. So now we got me in it, and then we got the paper in it, and then you got the TV station over there in El Dorado came to town. What was that? KAR? K. It is the TV people over there. Anyhow, you got the TV people involved. I think Little Rock came down too to check this out, and they pretty much came up with the same stuff. It's just looks like clear, and they moved on. So I'm moving on. So I'm done with this. Everything that I've done in this podcast is solely of Doc Bryce Productions, does not reflect the views and opinions of Doc Bryce Productions and its subsidiaries or its associates or its vendors or any of its other associations. So therefore, I am acting on my own. These are those of my opinion and what I've researched so far and what I've come up with to this exciting conclusion. So that's where we're at. The checks, it was oversight. So we got to fix that. As for the email, we got to fix that too. So that's where we're at. And that's all I got. So I am done with this. I hope y'all are done with this too. This could have been handled a lot better, by the way. But it is what it is, and it became what it became. I'm just glad that we finally figured it out. All right. So you guys be great. Have a great rest of the evening. Go make some news today. And I will see y'all on the other side after we get all moved into our new digs.